All right. Who is Michelle Hauk? And why should I even care? The short answer is I've gone through some really traumatic events that I don't want other people to have to go through. That's the short answer. I feel like if I share my story, that maybe it can help other people. Maybe other people won't have to go through all the heartache that I have. And that's why I'm here to share my story. So I'll be 42 on the 18th of March, and my oldest twins just turned 21. I have two sets of twins and a single. One of the things that I talk about a lot is parent alienation with my youngest three kids and my ex-in-laws. That's something that I have found definitely needs a community. I heard this quote from a Christian song from Elevation Worship called Never Lost. And it said at the very end that they were in a battle. And the way that the walls fell that were keeping them from getting to Jericho, when they were in the battle, they fell in a way that the walls that were supposed to keep them out became ramps into this city. And he said, what I'm trying to tell you is what was designed to keep you out will be the ramp to get you in. And that's what I think parent alienation is going to be. I think that I personally went through that so I can help other parents not have to go through this because I have legal custody and I signed over temporary guardianship. And they took my kids and brainwashed them and made up all these lies, that I'll never, ever understand. 4 years clean from heroin. I will be 4 years clean from heroin on April of this year. I am very excited about that. But that's another thing. I've survived addiction. I survived grapes. I've survived abuses. I've survived overdoses. I've survived being shot at. I've survived cancer. I've survived a lot. I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor. I'm not going to give up. Okay, let me stop. No, but really, there's so many people that have reached out to me after they got on my TikTok and they're like, hey, look, I went through your entire profile, right? And I'm going through the exact same thing with my ex's family or my ex. And this is a lot of things that I didn't realize that any other person was going through. Like in my divorce, which I divorced my ex husband because I didn't want my kids to remember the things that were happening. And from the sounds of it, when their dad is the parent of the year who has passed, I'm going to let them have it because that means that I did my job. I left in time for them not to remember what was really happening in front of them. And that's fine with me. That's fine. I'll be the bad guy if I have to be. But even in my divorce, they were trying to say, oh, she's a drug addict. And this is way before I was a drug addict. She's a drug addict. She's an alcoholic. She has no food in her house, blah, blah, blah. The judge didn't buy it. He saw their ways right away. And then he put a guardian ad litem in place who came to each of our houses. And of course, they walk into my house. My house is spotless because I am a clean person. My house is full of food. There was no alcohol because I barely drank. And I was of age. If I want to go out and have a cocktail, I'd go out and have a cocktail, okay? But don't say I was a drug addict. Then they got all three of us, me, my ex-husband, and my ex-mother-in-law, since she wanted to put herself in our divorce. We all three got drug tested, and I was the only one that passed. Make that make sense. Okay. But anyway, so yeah, so that's like just kind of things that I like to talk about because there are a lot of women and men that are going through this as well. There's no reason that a mother that signed over temporary guardianship because she did the most selfless thing she could ever do by, making sure that her kids didn't live in a car with her and her kids were taken care of when she could not provide. That doesn't mean that you take that parent and you tell her kids that she ran off and turned to drugs and didn't want to be a mom anymore and didn't love you. That's not what you do. You don't do that. You don't tell a mom, hey, you can come see the kids this weekend. And then you know that the mother doesn't have a driver's license. So you say, oh, by the way, if you're coming to see the kids, you can meet us at the police station because I don't have a license and you wanted me to get arrested in front of my own children. Or whenever I had a scheduled visit and everything was fine. And then the day before she calls me and says, oh, sorry, they can't make it anymore. Like, what do you mean they can't make it anymore? It's been scheduled for like 3 weeks. Yeah, no. And then after that was canceled, I was blocked from everything. blocked from everything. So the millions of times I've heard of my youngest three kids ask me, well, how come my dad came around but you didn't? That's because he was allowed. He was allowed. I was blocked from everything. If I came near y'all, it was call the cops, call the cops. And I don't even know why I was scared of the cops. I wasn't even doing nothing wrong. I was intimidated by those people and I had nobody. And when people know that you have nobody, they will do anything and everything to mess with you. I had asked my parents to please watch the kids for a week. A week. I was going to jail. Now, I'll admit that all day, every day. I admit my mistakes. I will, because I did make a lot of mistakes. But my mistakes were made after they took my kids and started brainwashing them. I turned to drugs after to numb myself. I couldn't get out of my bed. I cried all day, every single day, and I was miserable. And I had cancer and I had the pain pills. So the more depressed I got, the more pain pills I took, and it escalated. And then before you know it, I was just numb, but I wasn't like a full time drug addict. Like I was one of those ones that I would do drugs for a few months and then I'd go through the withdrawals. I'd be clean for a few months, 6 months to a year, and then I'd relapse. And then I'd do it for a few months and then then I get clean. I do it all over again. I think a total maybe 3 years of actual drug use, 3 years total out of my entire life. And I've been clean 4 years. So at this point, I think, my ex-in-laws are saying that they're mad at me for a lie I told in 2018. I was heavily on drugs in 2018. Okay. So if you're going to hold that against me, you just can't. Right. And then for them to tell me, we're going to teach your kids how to be law abiding citizens. Well, how are you going to teach them to be law abiding citizens when you are breaking the law? You are in contempt of court. I have legal custody. You have temporary guardianship, right? In 2021, we switched it from their great grandmother to the aunt. I was going to prison. They're like, well, you didn't tell us you were going to prison. Why would I tell you I was going to prison? Why? So you can have something else on me? I don't think so. I got the visitation in place before they ever knew I was going to prison, before I ever knew I was going to prison, right? As soon as I got the visitation, when she's like, yeah, you could be a part of their lives, you could be a part of their lives, all just to get me to switch a guardianship to her. Like, oh, let's be nice to her. Let's be nice. We'll tell her she can be a part of their lives. She can do this. And then as soon as I do it, and I put visitation in place because I know what you're going to do, because y'all been doing it the entire time. Of course, the first time in 2021 for Thanksgiving, I was like, okay, I'm going to buy a plane ticket. Oh, sorry, the kids don't want to see you and I can't make them. But actually, in the state of Florida, you were supposed to make them. Because kids, it's not like Georgia or Texas. Whenever you're 13 years old and you can make a decision to move wherever you want, that's not how it is in Florida. Now, I did hear that they did just change that law recently, but you were required. You were required to force the children to see their mother, which now puts you in contempt of court. And I've tried not to go back to court. And, my ex-in-laws are like, you're not going to court because you'll lose. I won't lose. I won't lose. The difference and why am I going back now? Because I've always tried to go back to my kids at 45%, 75%, 65%, and it never worked. I wanted to make sure I was 100% for my kids before I came back in their lives. And I am 110%. I trust myself more than anyone for the first time in my life. And that's why I gotta stand up. I gotta say what I gotta say. I gotta start talking about this. The women need a community. If there would have been a place for me to take my youngest three children that wasn't a homeless shelter, because I wasn't going to let my kids have homeless shelter memories in their life. If there had been another place for me to take them, I would have never had to go through all this. I just saw a picture of my 17-year-old son because they've done everything to hide my kids from me. I mean, they block me on everything. You've gone as far to brainwash the kids against their older brother and sister. So about 7 or 8 years ago, I believe, I don't know the exact time on that, my oldest twins were seeing my youngest three kids. But whenever my ex-in-laws found out that me and my oldest twins were talking and we were close because I'm their mother, right? Then they would no longer let my oldest twins talk to my youngest three. And now they're like making all kind of excuses why the kids don't want to talk to their brother and sister, which is really just like very, very sad. Not only have you lied to those children for as long as they've been alive, but you rip them away from their brother and sister. And women and men need a community. We need a community. We need a place that we can go to. Because if I would have had a community and I wasn't by myself, I would have never, ever, ever been bullied. And I would have never backed down to them. I would have fought and fought and fought. And I would have won, just like I'm going to win now. But I try to save you. I tried to save you because there's no way you can really believe that a judge is going to be fine that you kept a mother and children away from a mother that's completely changed her life for her children. For a mother that was alienated from her kids for leaving an abusive ex-husband like my ex-mother-in-law told me to do. You told me to leave your son. When you're stalking me on social media and you and I have messaged, and when I asked you, like, oh, your sob story you're putting on TikTok, I said, okay, well, let's talk about it. What is the problem that you have? The only issue she had with my story was the time that I said that I saw the kids on the porch from her backyard. That I was sitting on where I was staying after I had my full hysterectomy, after my ex-husband died. I was sitting on the porch. I could see their backyard from this porch, and I saw my kids. And she said that the week that I said that it was okay, I might have had the week wrong, but I know for sure it happened. And if that's the only issue you have with my story, then boom, I told you. And when I asked you, what about calling the cops every time I came around? Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I kicked you out of Tyler's funeral when I was trying to be there for my children who just lost their father because of everything you put him through. I said, okay, what did I put him through? Oh, well, I'm not going to go around and around. Oh, okay. I said, you know I'm not a bad mother. I know I'm not a bad mother. You know you're doing all this because you're mad at me. And that's all it is, y'all. She got her feelings hurt because we were best friends. And when me and my ex-husband divorced, we were no longer close. And that's what all stemmed from. And her little son, that was my kid's uncle, was being abusive to my kids. And I said something to her about it and she didn't like it. So anyway, I'm just here to share my story and I'm here to help other women. And I'm hoping with this community that we can build, that we can, somehow get a community together for women that don't have anywhere to go, like houses or, a little community, a little actual community. I don't know if it's tiny houses or regular houses or whatever it is, but my end goal would be to have a community that women could come to when they have nowhere else to go. And it's not embarrassing like taking your kids to the shelter because no parent wants to take their kids to a shelter. They don't. And if you do, more power to you and amen, because good for you, girl. I'm serious. You do whatever you got to do for those babies. I wish I would have because now I'm living without them and it's miserable. So that's why you should follow me. And I'm also going to have a medium on here. My friend Carol is a medium. She's going to be making guest appearances as well, answering your questions. If you want a reading, you can reach out to us. And yeah, so just, I don't know, stick on, guys. We're going to do this. I'm trying. It's my first podcast ever. So let's just do this. Let's just do this. We got this. We're going to change the world in some fashion. Okay. All right. Woo! Thank y'all for staying here. See y'all later. Alligator.